song on Spotify.
Right.
We're talking about AI that could, like, I don't know, completely reshape how you experience, well, pretty much everything.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot to cover.
It really is. So we're sifting through a mountain of, well,
mountains, right? Yeah.
research papers, practical guides. We've even got some pretty mind-bending articles.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
To bring you right to the forefront of, well,
the cutting edge,
where AI is making the biggest waves.
Absolutely.
So let's dive right in, okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
With this thought. Imagine, okay. Imagine a world where you could create a digital twin of yourself.
Right.
One that could, like, attend meetings in your place or try on clothes for you online.
I like that one.
Or even, like, I don't know, star in your own comic book.
That's great, yeah. It sounds kind of like a movie.
It does, right.
But honestly, it's closer than you think, really.
Way closer than we realize. And this is a perfect segue to this first paper we're going to unpack here.
Right.
It's called, and I love this title, Imagine Yourself, Tuning-Free Personalized Image Generation.
I mean, that title hooks you, right?
It really does.
It does.
Okay, so remember those face swap apps?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Everyone's messing around with them.
Everyone was doing that, yeah.
This is like that, but a million times cooler.
Yeah, so instead of just kind of like pasting your face onto, a picture of someone else.
Right.
This AI can take one photo of you.
Just one.
Just one photo.
Wow.
And using text prompts, it can generate images of you, like really realistic images doing anything.
Okay, that is so cool. But what's the magic behind it? How does it go beyond, those kind of clunky face swaps we've all seen?
I mean, the difference is it's in the details.
Okay.
This AI doesn't just recognize your face, like on the surface. It learns your features.
Really?
Like the way your smile lines crinkle, or how your hair falls when it's windy, even the way your skin tone looks in different lighting. It captures all of it.
So it's not just about, like, slapping a generic expression on a face. It's about creating an image that's uniquely you.
Exactly, yeah. And it's not just about you, right? I mean, this AI can create images of you in any situation. It's guided by your text prompts, so.
I mean, the possibilities are endless. Okay, so let's say I want a picture of myself. I don't know, like a rock star on stage.
Right, yeah.
Just type it in and boom.
That's it, yeah.
There it is.
You got it.
It's like having a personal Hollywood special effects team.
Totally, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
At your beck and call.
I like it.
But okay, let's shift gears here a little bit.
Okay.
From, crafting our digital personas, which is super fun. But let's dive into something else that's really interesting to me, the depths of knowledge.
Okay, all right, I like it.
So have you ever gone down, like, an internet rabbit hole?
Oh, all the time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, every day.
Spending hours, and you're searching, and you're like, why can't I find the answer to this thing?
And it's something simple, It should be so straightforward. It should be easy, and it's not. It's really frustrating. It is, and I think it actually kind of points to a big limitation in how we look for information online now.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens sometimes is that you don't even know the right questions to ask.
Yes, exactly.
And so you just get stuck.
Totally. You're stuck with these, like, I don't know, really surface level results, and there's more.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so this is where AI steps in and kind of offers a glimpse into a future where our search experience is anything but superficial.
That's right, and that actually brings us to this next paper. It's called Decompositional Questions for LLM Web Agents.
Okay, break that down for me. What even is an LLM web agent?
Okay, so imagine a search engine that doesn't just match keywords, right?
Okay.
It understands what you're actually trying to learn.
Sure.
Like, it's like having a super-powered research assistant.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Right.
That sounds way better than me, like sifting through pages of irrelevant links.
Totally. So these LLM web agents, they can analyze these really complicated questions, break them down, and consult all these different sources, even ones you wouldn't think to check.
Oh, interesting.
To synthesize, a real answer.
So it's not just giving me a list of links, it's giving me the information itself, but curated, contextualized.
Exactly, and it goes even deeper than that.
Right.
This paper, it talks about, like, unknown unknowns.
Unknown unknowns.
Right, so, like, these are the critical pieces of information that we don't even realize we need because we don't even know they exist.
It's like stumbling upon a hidden treasure trove of knowledge, except this AI is leading the way. But how does it even begin to AI-powered search is already happening.
It is, yeah. It's happening right now.
Wow. Okay, that's incredible.
It's still early,
Yeah.
but it's there.
Wow. I'm officially fascinated.
Right.
But also a little mind blown.
It's crazy, right?
It really is, because we've gone from AI that's like creating digital twins to AI that can practically read our minds and know what we want to search for before we even search for it.
Yeah, it's wild. But you know what I think is the most interesting question?
What's that?
What happens when AI starts learning, not from, data, but from experience?
Oh, interesting. You mean like how we learn?
Yeah, exactly.
Through trial and error
Yeah.
experimentation.
Totally. Maybe the occasional questionable haircut in our youth.
Exactly, yeah. And so these next couple of papers, and they're really fascinating when you talk about that, right?
Okay.
One is called Generative Agents with AI Town, and the other one is called LLMs in the Imaginarium, Tool Learning Through Simulated Trial and Error. And they both look at how we can create these virtual environments.
Where AI agents can learn more, like how we do.
So we were talking about like giving AI its own little, I don't know, digital playground.
Yeah, exactly.
To experiment in.
Yeah, like a simulated world where they can interact and they can set goals and make mistakes, learn from them.
So they're hanging out in virtual cafes, starting digital bands, navigating the ups and downs of AI friendships.
You're not wrong. I mean, in one experiment, the AI agents actually threw a party.
They threw a party?
They threw a party, yeah. They sent out invitations.
Wow. Okay, now I'm a little jealous of these AI agents, but on a serious note, what's the real takeaway here? Like, what can AI learn from throwing a virtual party? How does that translate into the real world?
That's a good question, right? I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but these simulated environments, they're actually really important for AI development.
Okay.
Because it gives them the safe space to practice things like problem solving and collaboration.
Oh, interesting.
Even coding without, real world consequences.
Right. It's like giving them driver's ed before we just like hand them the keys to the car.
Yeah, exactly.
And as they get better at navigating these virtual spaces, then they can go on to, do bigger and better things out in the real world.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I do have to ask though, are there any like limitations to this approach?
Yeah.
Because let's be real, I mean, as humans, we're great at learning from experience.
Sure.
But we're also, I don't know about you, but I make the same mistakes over and over.
Yeah, no, it's true. And that's actually a really good point because that's one of the biggest challenges that AI research is facing right now.
Yeah.
These AI models, they have a hard time with long-term planning and coherence.
Cool.
So they can do a task, but they don't really understand why or how it fits into a bigger picture,
So they can like plan this great virtual party, but then they forget why they even wanted to have a party in the first place.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And that's why things like simulated trial and error and, building AI memory, that's really important because if they can practice and make these mistakes and then learn from those mistakes, it'll help them develop, a better understanding of kind of the world.
Right, so it's almost like we're becoming like mentors to these AI systems.
Yeah.
Guiding them to this more nuanced understanding of how things work.
Exactly.
Which leads us to, I think, another really crucial question, which is, as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives, how do we teach it? And I guess even more importantly, how do we make sure that it's learning the right things?
Yeah, that is the question, right?
It really is.
And that's exactly what this next paper it's called, Teaching Large Language Models to Reason with Reinforcement Learning.
Okay.
It dives into that.
Okay, so break it down for me. What is reinforcement learning from human feedback? And like, how does it apply to AI and teaching it things?
So instead of just using like tons and tons of data, this is about actively teaching AI through feedback.
Okay.
So think about, when you tell a kid, good job.
Right.
Or you correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
But obviously more complicated with AI, right?
So we're basically like shaping AI's understanding of the world through the way that we interact with it. It's almost like raising like a digital child.
Yeah, and it makes you realize how big a responsibility this is.
Huge.
Because we're shaping their values.
Yeah.
We're shaping their priorities.
Yeah, and that brings up a really good point.
What's that?
Whose values are we talking about here? Like are we just reflecting our own biases back on ourselves? It's a big question, because as we're shaping these AI systems, are we just reflecting our own worldview back at ourselves,
Yeah, and it's something that researchers are really thinking hard about.
Yeah.
And one way to deal with that is by making sure that the data we use to train the AI is diverse.
And representative, so it's not just, one kind of perspective.
So it's like, we're making sure that this AI is getting like a well-rounded education.
Exactly.
Right, it's learning from all these different sources and viewpoints.
Yeah, exactly. It's about broadening the AI's horizons, I guess you could say, and making sure it can deal with a complicated world.
Right, and do it with nuance and sensitivity and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it all ties back to this idea that AI, like, it really is a reflection of ourselves in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So if we want it to be, fair, unbiased, aligned with our values, we have to be really careful about the data that we're feeding it.
Totally.
And the feedback that we're giving it.
Absolutely. It's a huge responsibility for everyone involved.
It really is. It's like we're all part of this massive experiment, and the implications are huge, right? It's not just about, building smarter machines.
It's way bigger than that. Yeah.
It's about redefining our relationship with knowledge itself.
100%. Yeah. How we get it, how we learn, how we make decisions. I mean, AI is going to change all of it.
It's pretty wild to think about.
It is. It's exciting, but it's also kind of,
Yeah, like a little bit daunting.
A little daunting for sure.
But, no matter what, it's a conversation we have to have.
We do. We have to talk about it. Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do here on the Deep Dive.
That's right.
And today we've covered so much. From AI that can personalize, create those images, those digital twins, to AI that knows what we're looking for before we even search for it.
And we talked about how AI is learning, navigating these virtual worlds, and how we can teach it to think in a way that's, responsible.
Right, and that aligns with, our human values.
Exactly.
It's been amazing. But I have to say, I feel like I'm walking away with more questions than answers.
Oh, for sure.
But maybe that's a good thing.
I think so, yeah.
Right. Because it just shows how much more there is to learn and discover.
It really does. I mean, the more we learn about AI, the more we realize how much we don't know,
It's true.
But that's what's so exciting about it.
Yeah. The possibilities are kind of endless.
Totally.
And the best part is, it's like,
oh my God,
we're all in this together.
We are, all of us. Yeah.
So to everyone listening, stay curious. Keep asking those questions, and let's see where this incredible journey takes us. Because the future of, everything is being written right now, and we all have a front row seat.
Okay, so wow. Lauren Boebert at Beetlejuice the Musical. Allegedly grabbing someone's crotch.
It's almost too on brand, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. It's not really about the scandal itself.
Right. It's I was thinking about that point Dan Soder made on Tim Dillon's podcast. He said that her base is probably more surprised that she was even at a Broadway show in the first place.
Exactly. Than that she acted up during it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't just about one politician's behavior, though.
Right.
It sort of reveals something about how these figures really do often embody the values, even the maybe less savory ones, of their constituents. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's remember how Dillon and Soder went on that whole riff about Colorado?
Yeah.
Describing this weird contradiction, mini malls built on stolen land, but also this innocent, joyful curiousness.
Right. And those things can exist at the same time. It's that kind of complexity that Boebert, maybe unintentionally, forces us to confront. It's like we want to dismiss her, but she's a reflection of something real. It definitely makes you think about the American West in a different way.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It's not all cowboys and open spaces, right? There's a darkness there, too.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on.
So dive a little deeper.
Yeah, let's dive into this whole other aspect. So it's we're talking about these different realities people are living in, right? And it reminded me of that story Dan Soder told about his ex-girlfriend. The one who ran in those super wealthy circles.
Well, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the idea of all that money, right? But the more he described, the less glamorous it seemed.
Right. And he even said, these people have to be, at least a little sociopathic, or else the rest of us we wouldn't stand a chance.
He's got a point. How else do you function when you're that insulated?
And then there's that whole thing with her and the Pierre Hotel, right?
Oh my God, yeah. The Pierre's a hotel. It never even occurred to her.
I know.
It's those little details that are just, mind-blowing.
Totally. Because it shows you just how different their worldview really is. And it's not even that they're, actively malicious or anything. It's they're just so removed from how most people experience the world.
Right. And maybe that's even scarier,
Yeah.
Because it makes you wonder about the limits of empathy. Like, how much can you really understand someone who lives in a completely different reality?
Exactly. It's like that thing Dylan and Sater were joking about, how all these women they know are on Valium.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to, like, our parents' generation, all those boomers with their emotions on full blast all the time.
Oh, totally. And it makes you wonder if it's not just a joy here on Earth that we completely miss because we're so focused on ourselves.
Because we're so used to our own way of doing things.
Exactly. We're looking for signs of intelligent life that fit our definition of technology and communication. But what if it's all around us, just expressing itself in ways we don't understand?
Okay, now that's both mind-blowing and a little creepy.
Yeah.
Like, what if we're not just missing signals from outer space, but from right under our noses?
It's a possibility. And speaking of things that are both amazing and potentially terrifying, Kaku doesn't shy away from talking about the downsides of all this advanced tech. He's particularly worried about gene editing.
Yeah, gene editing. It's like we can edit out diseases, which is incredible, but what's to stop us from choosing desirable traits for our kids? Designer babies and all that.
Exactly. Kaku's concerned about a potential black market for genetic enhancements, where the wealthy could essentially buy their way into a genetically superior class.
Oh man, that's a whole other ethical nightmare. And then there's AI. Didn't he have some pretty chilling things to say about where that could all lead?
Yeah, he did. He brought up some pretty unsettling historical examples too, like the CIA's MKUltra program.
MKUltra? Wait, wasn't that like mind control experiments and LSD? I thought that was just a conspiracy theory.
Nope, it really happened.
Oh.
And it gets even wilder. Kaku also talks about this guy, Jose Delgado,
Yeah.
who was implanting electrodes in bulls' brains back in the day.
Hold on. Electrodes in bulls' brains?
You heard right. And he claimed he could control their movements with the push of a button, like a remote control for a bull.
Okay, now that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right. And while Delgado claimed this technology could be used to treat neurological disorders, it also raises some serious ethical red flags. Like, where do we draw the line with manipulating the brain?
And how do we even begin to answer that question when we're talking about AI? I mean, if we can barely handle the ethics of controlling a bull with a remote, what happens when we're dealing with machines that could potentially outthink us?
That's the billion-dollar question. Kaku's point is, we need to be thinking about these ethical considerations now, before it's too late. We can't just get caught up in the excitement of new technology without considering the potential consequences.
It's like we're standing on the edge of this incredible future, but there are also some pretty terrifying pitfalls along the way. So where do we go from here? So we're standing at this crossroads with amazing technological advancements on one hand, and some pretty terrifying risks on the other. Where do we even go from here?
Well, Kaku seems to think our best bet is to embrace the unknown rather than fear it.
Embrace the unknown. That's a tall order when we're talking about things that could potentially wipe us out.
I hear you. But his point is, the universe is so vast, so full of possibilities, there's a good chance we're not alone. And that in itself is a pretty amazing realization.
Okay, I'll grant you that. But how do we even begin to prepare for contact with a civilization that could be thousands, maybe even millions of years ahead of us? I mean, imagine trying to explain the internet to a caveman.
It might be even weirder than that. We're so used to looking for signs of intelligence and technology that make sense to us. But what if they're so advanced that we can't even recognize it?
It's like that saying, if a lion could talk, we wouldn't understand it. What if they're trying to communicate, but we're just not picking up on it?
Exactly. And that's where Kaku's type system comes in. Imagine a type 2 or type 3 civilization. They're not just using technology, they're practically becoming technology.
Yeah.
Their understanding of the universe would be on a whole other level.
So what are we supposed to do? Just hope for the best.
Hope for the best, but prepare for anything. Kaku talks about the importance of open-mindedness, curiosity, and humility. Because if we go into these potential encounters with fear and suspicion, well, history hasn't exactly painted a pretty picture of what happens then.
You're saying we need to be the anthropologists, not the conquerors.
Exactly. Imagine if, instead of sending out radio signals, we sent out something that conveyed our curiosity, our desire to learn.
Okay, now that is a challenge. What kind of message would represent humanity at our best?
Is a question we should all be asking ourselves. Because if and when that contact happens, how we respond, well, that's going to define us as a species.
It's almost like the act of preparing for that contact, of expanding our understanding of intelligence, of technology, of our place in the universe. Maybe that's what ultimately pushes us forward.
Maybe that's the real gift of this whole UFO phenomenon. It forces us to confront our own limitations Imagine a future that's bigger, weirder, and more amazing than we can even comprehend right now.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about. If you're listening and your head is buzzing with possibilities, you're not alone. It seems like we're standing on the verge of something incredible. Or maybe it's always been incredible and we're just now starting to open our eyes. That's it for our deep dive on UFOs and the future of humanity. Let us know your thoughts, and until next time, keep looking up.
Is that it's about the big picture.
Right.
Right? We're talking about extinctions, but on a global scale.
Right.
It's like something had to kickstart that process.
Yeah.
And he's saying it was way more intense than just a gradual change in climate.
Yeah, he's not dismissing humans or, the natural kind of comings and goings of climate change and ice ages and things like that. But
Right.
he thinks that they might have been a contributing factor, but there was something else bigger that happened first.
And this is where it gets really interesting because, Carlson is really into the ancient myths and legends.
Yeah.
And he's always saying, like, maybe they're true.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're based on something true.
Yeah.
And he brings up Atlantis.
Of course. Yeah.
Because why not?
Why not?
So is Atlantis real?
Well,
Obviously, that's what we all want to know.
yeah. Well, and what's interesting is that in the telling of that story is that there's a lot of parallels with what we know happened with the end of the last ice age.
What do you mean?
So the earthquakes and the flooding and the ocean swallowing up the land.
You mean like meltwater pulls 1B kind of stuff?
Exactly.
Wow.
So, and then it goes even deeper than that because Plato, he tells the story of Solon, who was this Greek lawmaker who supposedly learned about Atlantis from Egyptian priests.
Okay.
And these priests, they said that they'd had the story of Atlantis for like 9,000 years.
So they're saying that Atlantis predates even the Younger Dryas.
That's what they're saying.
Wow.
Which is incredible to think about because if there's a grain of truth to that,
Right.
then that means that whatever happened, it was so unbelievably cataclysmic
Yeah.
that its memory survived for thousands of years.
That's incredible.
It really is.
So we've got this possible evidence for comet impacts,
Yeah.
megafauna extinctions.
Yeah.
Maybe Atlantis is real. I mean,
It's mind-blowing stuff.
it's a lot to take in. Is there any good news here?
Well, the good news is that by understanding these past events, we can actually prepare for the future. Because if history teaches us anything, it's that we can't always predict what's going to happen.
And that brings us to Carlson's final point, which is all about planetary defense.
Right, because as he puts it, near-Earth space is a lot more crowded than we think.
And a lot more dangerous, too.
Yeah, and we've had some close calls recently that are pretty scary when you think about it.
Like that one in 2002.
Yeah, the one with the asteroid that was almost a kilometer wide.
Imagine that hitting Earth.
I know, it would be devastating.
And they only spotted it like a few days before it zoomed past.
Exactly, which is why Carlson argues that we really need to up our game when it comes to planetary defense.
So we need to be proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. We need to learn from the past and be ready for whatever the cosmos might throw at us in the future.
It's like that old saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Exactly. And when it comes to cosmic events, repeating the past is not an option.
So there you have it. The energy paradox, the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, the legend of Atlantis. It's been quite a deep dive.
It really has, and hopefully it's given everyone a lot to think about.
For sure. And who knows, maybe by unraveling the mysteries of our planet's past, we can create a safer and more sustainable future. Until next time, everyone. All right, buckle up, because we are diving deep into this wild conversation with Bobby Lee and Theo Vaughn. We're dissecting Theo's podcast this past weekend to really get under the hood of Bobby's humor and worldview.
And let me tell you, this one is a wild ride, full of unexpected twists and turns. We're not just scratching the surface here. We're going deep into Bobby's personal struggles, his unique perspective on the world, the stuff that makes him tick.
Yeah, and it's hilarious right off the bat, like from the first minute. We've got Bobby playfully calling Theo boiled egg as a pickup line.
Classic Bobby, right?
Okay.
Pushing the boundaries, not afraid to be a little outrageous.
Totally. But here's where it gets interesting. This boiled egg bit somehow morphs into this whole thing about the kinds of fans Theo attract. Like, what does that say about him?
It's brilliant. This blend of self-awareness and social commentary all wrapped up in this hilarious package. They start riffing on these stereotypes like supermodel gypsies with henna tattoos, and you can't help but laugh.
Right. Where do they even come up with this stuff?
But it also makes you think, what does draw people to certain comedians? Are we drawn to people who reflect something back at us?
It's fascinating. And speaking of unexpected, Bobby pulls out this gripe list he's compiled about Theo.
Oh man, the gripe list is pure gold. On the surface, it's all fun and games, but listen closely, and you start to pick up on these little insecurities, these vulnerabilities they're both revealing through humor.
Totally. Like when Bobby gets all weird about Theo joking about him being bisexual, you can tell there's something deeper there.
Absolutely. It's like he's using humor to deflect from those sensitive spots, you know?
Yeah.
And this theme of using humor to navigate potentially, I don't know, maybe uncomfortable topics, it keeps coming back, especially when they get into the whole discussion about race and stereotypes.
Yeah, and it starts innocently enough. Bobby's comparing Theo to a Funko Pop, which is hilarious in itself.
Right, like Theo's this collectible item.
Exactly, and somehow that leads into this whole analysis of stereotypical Asian merchandise.
And this is where Bobby's comedic genius really shines, I think. He takes these seemingly silly observations and weaves them into this really nuanced commentary on how these stereotypes, how they actually impact his life.
Like people expecting him to be the spokesperson for all Asian people.
Or assuming that he's got all the answers about Theo just because they're both comedians.
Exactly. Like there's this underlying expectation because of their race.
And it's that subtle, everyday racism that so many people of color experience. But Bobby, he confronts it head on. And he does it with this sharp wit that makes you laugh, makes you think at the same time.
Totally. You're laughing, but you're also kind of squirming in your seat a little bit. Like, yeah, I've totally thought that way before. Maybe I need to check myself.
Right. He's making us confront those uncomfortable truths, but in a way that's disarming and honestly kind of brilliant. And just when you think the conversation can't get any wilder, they go off on this hilarious tangent about, wait for it, the lack of an Asian Home Alone.
Okay, yes. The Home Alone tangent.
Uh-huh.
It starts as this throwaway comment, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're brainstorming these hilarious reimagined classic films with an Asian twist.
Pure comedic gold. Like, I'm still laughing about their Castaway remake with Tom Hanks starting a volleyball factory.
Instead of talking to Wilson the volleyball.
Yes. And it plays on those stereotypes about Asian work ethic, but in a way that exposes how ridiculous those stereotypes really are.
Right. It makes you think, why hasn't there been an Asian Home Alone?
Exactly. It's like they're subtly pointing out this huge blind spot in Hollywood representation without missing a beat in the comedy.
And just when you think you've got them figured out, that you know where the conversation's going, they take this sharp turn into, well, let's just call it bizarre territory.
You mean the whole Asian mermaid debacle?
That's the one. They're talking about dating preferences, which is already kind of a minefield. And out of nowhere, Bobby drops this whole story about Asian mermaid folklore.
And you're sitting there like, wait, is he serious? Is this a real thing?
Right. You can never tell with Bobby. And that's part of what makes him so compelling, right?
Yeah.
That willingness to play with those boundaries.
Absolutely. He keeps you guessing. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth next. But here's the thing. Even when he's being outrageous, even if it ruffles some feathers, you can sense this underlying intelligence, this awareness of the power dynamics at play.
Yeah, and just when you think they've reached peak absurdity, they switch gears completely.
Yeah.
Bobby asks Theo about interviewing Donald Trump, and it's like the mood shifts on a dime. It's kind of like whiplash in a weird way.
Totally. But then that's Bobby, right? He'll have you laughing 1 minute and then hit you with something profound the next.
You're definitely in for a ride with this one. And this idea of, I don't know, needing support, like seeking out genuine connections, it kind of comes up again when they start talking about the whole fan interaction thing, like setting boundaries with people who recognize you.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you're in the public eye, that line can get really blurry.
Bobby tells this story about a fan approaching him at a gas station, wanting to take a picture, and you could just feel that conflict he's feeling, like want to be nice, but also needing some space.
Totally. And it's even harder nowadays when everybody's got a camera on their phone. It's like this constant pressure to be on all the time.
Exactly. And to Theo's credit, he really gets it. He talks about his own like strategies for how he deals with fans and protects his energy, especially when he's not feeling it.
Which is such a good reminder. You're allowed to have boundaries. Just because you're a public figure doesn't mean you owe everyone a piece of yourself 24/7.
Right. Like sometimes saying no is the healthiest thing you can do, both for you and the other person.
Absolutely. And that actually kind of ties into what I think is one of the most powerful moments in this whole conversation when they start talking about loneliness.
Yeah, when things take a more serious turn.
Like, here you have these two incredibly successful comedians, right? Dudes who make a living out of making other people laugh, and they're both admitting to feeling lonely and unsure sometimes. It's incredibly humanizing.
Yeah, they're really letting us see behind the curtain a little bit.
And it just goes to show that, fame and fortune don't magically erase your problems. If anything, they can amplify them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a cure-all.
And that's what makes Theo's emphasis on the importance of connection connection, especially within the recovery community. So powerful.
Like when he talks about finding solace in those AA meetings in Montana.
Yes. Connecting with people from all walks of life, people who've been through some shit. It kind of highlights that universal human need for belonging, you know? To have a space where you can be vulnerable and authentic without being judged.
For sure. And just when you think the conversation can't get any more real, Bobby shares that story that his childhood cat, Tommy. And man, it's heartbreaking.
And it's really telling. That's where we start to get a glimpse into like the roots of Bobby's comedic sensibility.
Especially his relationship with his parents. Especially his dad.
It's rough. The way he talks about his dad taking away his beloved cat because of his mom's allergies and like no explanation, no comfort, just a very blunt, stop crying. That's heavy stuff.
You can just feel that childhood hurt resurfacing.
And it's a powerful illustration of how those early experiences with loss and like emotional suppression, they can really shape our outlook on life.
It really makes you think about like the long-term impact of that kind of upbringing. You know, always feeling like you have to push down those emotions, hide those vulnerable parts of yourself.
Totally. And it makes you wonder, does it ever really go away? Or are you always carrying that with you?
Right. Like, how do you even begin to unpack that?
And I think for Bobby, humor is a big part of it. It's like this shield he's built around himself.
I can see that. Always deflecting, always keeping things light.
But as we've seen throughout this whole conversation, those walls can only hold up for so long.
Totally. And that's what I love about this episode, I think. It's like we're getting these glimpses of like the real Bobby. The one who's searching for connection, for a deeper understanding of himself and the world.
Yeah, like he's figuring it out as he goes along, just like the rest of us.
Exactly. He's not afraid to be a little messy, a little contradictory.
And honestly, I think that's what makes him so relatable, because aren't we all a little messy and contradictory sometimes?
For sure. Like, he's giving us permission to embrace those complexities.
Absolutely. To find humor in the midst of the, I don't know, the chaos of it all.
So, like, as we kind of resurface from this deep dive into Bobby Lee's world, what do you think is the big takeaway?
Man, that's a tough one. But if I had to pick one thing, I think it would be the power of vulnerability.
To just be yourself, flaws and all.
Exactly, because in those moments of vulnerability, in those cracks in the armor, that's where the real connection happens.
That's where the good stuff is.
And who knows, maybe if we can all learn to embrace those parts of ourselves a little bit more, we can create a world where laughter and tears can coexist.
A world with a little more grace, a little more understanding.
Absolutely, a world where it's okay to not have all the answers.
And maybe, just maybe, a world with an Asian home alone.
Now that's something I can get behind.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like we've really uncovered some fascinating layers to Bobby Lee's humor. And it makes you think, doesn't it? How does suppressing vulnerability shape our own comedic voices? How can we be more comfortable with those messier parts of ourselves, both in humor and in life? Something to ponder, folks. Until next time.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going straight to the source on Elon Musk's Neuralink.
Yeah, Neuralink, brain-computer interfaces.
All that. We're diving deep into this crazy long but super interesting podcast interview with Lex Fridman.
Oh yeah, the Lex Fridman interview.
It covers like everything. They talk about the tech, obviously, but they also get into the first human patient's experience, which is
wild.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride, honestly. You know what really struck me going through all of this?
What's that?
It wasn't just the what of Neuralink, you know, like what it is and how it works. It was really the why.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Why?
Elon Musk, he's not just trying to build some cool gadget, right? He wants to tackle these huge limitations that we have as humans.
Okay, what kind of limitations? I mean, I feel like my phone is already like an extension of my brain.
Right, but he's talking about going way beyond that. He actually compares Neuralink to the development of language.
Whoa.
Yeah, both of them are tools that connect our thoughts to the outside world. But Neuralink, it's like this massive speed upgrade to the interface.
So instead of trying to find the right words, we could just think something and transmit it directly.
Exactly. He even talks about conditions like Alzheimer's. He doesn't just see them as diseases, but as examples of how our own biology can fail us.
I've never thought about it like that.
And Neuralink, he thinks it could be a way to overcome those limitations, really push the boundaries of what humans can do.
That's a bold vision. But before we get too deep into like the philosophy of it all, let's talk about how it actually works. This implant, the threads, the electrodes, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's pretty wild. And the design is surprisingly elegant too. You know how they get those threads into the brain?
I was wondering about that.
DJCO. He's the lead on the implant design, and he actually took inspiration from sewing needles.
Sewing needles?
Yeah. They needed something super thin and flexible to weave through brain tissue without causing damage.
Sewing needles and brains, that's not a connection I would have made.
But it makes sense, right? You need something really precise for a surgery like that.
Absolutely.
And it's not just a one-time thing. They had to think about how the brain would react over time, how to prevent scarring, and then there's the battery.
Oh, right, the battery. How do they even...
Wireless charging without, frying your brain. The engineering is mind-blowing.
It really is. Speaking of mind-blowing, how about that surgery? Brain surgery just sounds terrifying. How do they even start?
Well, Matthew McDougall, he's the head neurosurgeon at Neuralink, and he gets into a surprising amount of detail about the surgery in this interview. So they actually have this surgical robot that handles the really delicate part.
A robot brain surgeon.
I know, right? It says the most delicate part, placing those tiny threads into the brain.
I have to ask, why a robot? Why not a human surgeon?
It turns out, even the steadiest hands are still too shaky for something this precise. The robot operates on a microscopic level, so it minimizes damage to the surrounding brain tissue. The surgeons are still in charge, of course, but the robot does the heavy lifting. Literally.
Okay, so you've got the implant, the surgery, but how do you get from brain signals to actually controlling something? Our brains are complicated.
That's where it gets really interesting. They're basically translating those brain signals into commands that a computer can understand.
Wow, so they're like deciphering a secret code.
Kind of. They use these complex algorithms to get rid of noise, find the pattern,